Alright guys, HyDra back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Octane has led a scathing criticism of his former organisation, the Seattle Surge, for the roster they are seemingly building for the upcoming season. He reckons that this aBeZy Hook combination in the SMG department is going to be basically the worst SMG duo in the entire league, and he would take pretty much every other option over what they're trying to do, saying their roster building decisions again have completely missed the mark. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Lots of talk lately on Modern Warfare 3, the maps that are going to be in the game. Wonder what you guys would do here, right? 3 maps for competitive for next season. I know that people will say, well, you got to take Terminal, you got to take High Rise. I know, honestly, people have said maybe Subbase could be viable, maybe. I don't really know what other maps could be played. Favela kind of should feel like there's maybe a chance that it works in certain modes, but I'm not so sure. So if I had to choose 3 now, it would be very challenging. I think Invasion has been one that has definitely been pretty consistent in terms of watching it in MW2 throwbacks that Hitch has done and stuff. But yeah, 3 maps out of these 16 is going to be quite a challenge actually to figure out. There was also a bit of talk from Octane between Attach and even Slasher discussing the worst CoD in recent memory, of which there are a few candidates. Attach reckons it was last year's game, MW2. Slasher reckons it was MW 2019, so, you know, on a similar wavelength. But also discussions on the sound EQ cheese and just general cheese that the pros come up with, especially on the snaking side, shall we say, as well, because even as Attach says, snaking is the cause of no delay out from prone to sprints, kind of saying that, let's say there was developers came in and wanted to fix snaking, that's the way to do it. Without sound EQ, the footsteps were still louder than we've had in other CODs, but obviously that PC setting made it 10 times worse. If we just didn't snake or use EQ, and I love this Octane that's now okay, I didn't want Octane to retire, obviously, but the fact that Octane is now retired does mean that he comes out with some not exactly scorching hot takes, but he isn't afraid to throw criticism the way of teams, of players. And to be fair, he wasn't afraid of doing this when he was actually playing. You guys remember when he got fined all that money back in 2020, I guess it was, during the CDL season, the Stay Tuned drama, the online COD stuff of that season that Octane didn't take too kindly to, but he's definitely going off on the main stage lately. If we just didn't snake or use EQ, we wouldn't hate it nearly as much. Just because snaking is available doesn't excuse using it, and kind of putting this on the players. As Attach says, you're right, we could make the gameplay better if we can actually agree on GAs, but you know, the last few years, certainly from Cold War onwards, really lots of talk about Cellium and the snaking, and now everyone just kind of does it anyway, and now Drazah and Cellium are on the same team, so good luck stopping them from doing it. And like Octane says, it's a player issue, not a game issue, but we'll see if they can find a way to resolve that going forward. Also wanted to mention, because Octane does not appear on this list, but I can't imagine he's too far away. Even though he did win the World Championship on a Sledgehammer game, these are the most winning players on Sledgehammer games of current CDL pros. Kenny and Attach have both won 5 titles across Sledgehammer games, so, you know, we're talking Advanced Warfare originally, then World War II, especially in the case of Kenny and co, and then most recently, I suppose, Vanguard. We've got another game upcoming. Kenny, Attach, Clay, Slasher, Accuracy, TJ, Drazah, Envoy, and then all time, which largely is going to be considering Advanced Warfare, but also he's throwing MW3 in here, because I'm pretty sure that Sledgehammer also worked, at least in some part, on producing MW3 back in 2011. So, including all of those, a couple of the names we saw, Kenny, Attach is still kind of here, Karma's at 5, Enable at 6, and then you have pretty much the OpTic dynasty, right, of Scump, Crim, and Formal, who, yeah, they were rather good during Advanced Warfare, if you guys don't remember about that one. Now, the Seattle Surge roster we expect to see is going to be featuring Arcetes, Ilya, Hook, and aBeZy. And just even to add something further to that, I shared, I believe, this clip for you guys. This really nice 1v2 from Arcetes. I didn't actually mention when I showed this before, but he only wall runs the first part of this. If you guys didn't know, you can actually wall run underneath this bridge as well and come up the other side. He decides not to do that this time and just takes this gunfight, which he wins and gets the bomb defused. And aBeZy in the reply is saying, oh, very interesting, right? So, potential future teammate, it seems quite likely. That's the current rumor. But the expectation might have been that Arcetes and aBeZy could be an AR combination, an AR duo, and I still think that's what I would prefer to see. I think that Ilya on the SMG with Hook is, honestly, has a better chance of being better than this version with aBeZy. Maybe aBeZy is just godlike on the SMG, and he might be. He was great on the AR last season in challenges, but when a player, let's say Scrappy, has fried in challenges all year, Do you bring him in and put him on a sub? No, you don't. You bring him in and you put him on the role that he's going to play best in. But the theory would be that Friendship League, or whatever you want to say, Arsteez Illy wanted a team together, and therefore this is the team they're going with. Rambo, I guess, is on board as the head coach, theoretically, with aBeZy on the sub alongside Hook. Now, of course, we know that Surge have had questionable history of choosing good teams, especially when Mr. Octane was there himself on that Seattle Surge team back in 2019. It wasn't so good. Karma, Slacked, Enable, Apathy, and Octane himself. Not a great team on paper, really, looking back at it, to be honest, given, you know, a lot of those players were kind of towards the end of their career, shall we say, and it was an absolute disaster and a lot of money wasted. Next year, they made similar mistakes. They kept Octane around, despite the fact that he wanted to leave, he wanted to go to Thieves, but it didn't happen for one more year, and then as soon as he left Seattle, he was very, you know, raised heavy criticism on the entire way the organization functions, and we see even more of that in recent years, really, or recent months, let's be honest, with, you know, Pred not being let go for whatever reason, and now he goes to OpTic for free regardless. So Octane has always been highly critical of Seattle Surge, and it's well, we have another similar story.
Alec, aka Arsteez, Illy, Hook, and aBeZy. So my question to you, JP, obviously you worked with a number of players on this team, and obviously a member of a coaching staff that you worked on. Like, what are your thoughts on this team? You think that they made the kind of right decision, kind of circling the wagon with some pre-existing relationships here?
Yeah, I just want to know who's running the second sub.
aBeZy.
Okay, then like I don't know that makes it just makes
he's
it
stun
weird
locked.
sense
Look,
to me.
he's stun locked.
Like, I don't want to make any conclusion now because obviously the game hasn't come out and that's not like their decision, but like I don't know, it just feels weird with those players like that set up.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. Sorry, I mean, just put it
Yeah,
bluntly.
you didn't have to go there.
Do you disagree?
I mean, listen, here's my problem, and I think JP got to it, bro. Like, you've got a number of players here, like first off, aBeZy like was frying in challengers. We talked about this last year with Fame. Like, I don't know why you're putting him on a different role. And on top of that, I love Ender, but I think where Ender's skill set might work the best is either being like in a AR flex heavy game or running the main and like putting either him or aBeZy on a second sub. Considering some of the duos, you know, like his former team right now, you got Pred and Shotzzy, you got Simp and aBeZy for FaZe, you got CleanX and Envoy now in Toronto. New York's got like Kiz and HyDra. Like,
bro, barring
the impact is tough.
Literally barring London Ben, I don't think that there is a sub duo that I would take them over. Kyler and aBeZy, I don't think I'm taking over anyone. Like, I would.
Wow,
dude, what? I don't know whose decision it was. I don't know if it was his to just be like, I'll run the sub. Like, I hate the gimmick of like removing a known quantity in favor of potential. Like in like a role situation, not necessarily like a whole player situation. Because I think that's a whole different conversation. But removing like aBeZy from all of the progress that he has made as a professional Call of Duty player, frying in challengers, like dropping insane bombs in Europe, being there's unreal consistency with an AR in favor of like, but what if he's insane? But like, why are we removing what he's already done in favor of like, but he could be insane with a sub? Like, what's the point? Why would we want him to be insane with a sub? He is insane with an AR. So like, again, I don't know if this is like him just being like, yeah, I'll bite the bullet. Like, we don't have a sub player. I don't know why they wouldn't try to get one, or like what the situation is with Seattle, but this roster is like so poorly constructed. And I would love to eat my words. If this guy's HyDra, me, right?
Yeah.
But like, this is not the way that you build a roster in the CDL, period.
So is Octane correct about the SMG Duo, or just the decision making in general? Because of all the teams that are being rumored, the Surge one is like, I don't really understand what the thought process is here. And I know people say, oh, you know, give him time, see how it goes. And sure, but doesn't mean that we can't criticize a theoretically poor team on paper, because, you know, if you get it wrong, then you look like a plonker and they look like geniuses. If you get it right, then you were right all along. So you've got to make predictions on these things. And Octane's certainly in that boat and says that, fair enough, they proved me wrong. Great. I mean, I'm happy for those guys to succeed. But if they don't, then I was right. And I think that Octane, on the balance of probabilities, is probably more likely to be correct. Now, is he right, though, though, on the part about the SMGs, because he said that outside of London, and then he even said, well, maybe even whatever London do is going to be better than this, because you look at OpTic, you've got Shotzzy and you've got Pred. I mean, what can you even say at that point? aBeZy and Simp over at FaZe, CleanX Envoy over at Toronto, and then Kismet HyDra over on Subliners, and then even going to a team like Boston, you know, you've got Capsidal and Snoopy. That could be pretty nice on paper. And then you get down to Hook and aBeZy, and I think that some of you guys mentioned this the other day, that if this team is to succeed, we basically need this Hook to be around all the time. Like this stage 4, start of stage 4 Hook, when, you know, online, right, when he was just absolutely crushing it in every mode, especially Search and Destroy. I think they need like this absolute prime version of Hook to be there all year long, to be honest, for Surge, if they want to really achieve anything. And just looking at some of these other duos, right, so even Boston, as we said, Miami, okay, Miami is interesting, right, potentially, you know, they've got a few options here. Vikul and co, we don't exactly know how they're going to structure their team quite yet, or whether there's going to be other options. And then Thieves, you get, you know, Afro, Joe to Thieves. Rocco, we think they're going for Vivid and Linz, at least as a recording, and then, you know, we've got Hook aBeZy on Surge. So of all of those that I've seen so far, Hook aBeZy is definitely the most questionable. And then you look at Gorillas, the rumor of like maybe Standy and Nero, or even if they don't do Standy and Nero, they might do Nero and a Seam, they might do Standy and Havoc, I don't know, like they can bring any old player in, and still I would favor, you know, any of those combinations, to be honest, over Hook and aBeZy. Not to say that aBeZy is necessarily bad at that role, but I just don't understand why, and I just feel like it's maybe a safer bet in some respects. It's not like you need to be safe when you're a team in this position. You need to take risk if you actually want to have some upside, but I mean, still, I don't think they've made the best of the situation, because I'm even thinking about what Vegas could do and some lesser players. Let's say Vegas try and get TJ, and then maybe they bring TJ back and they bring in another player that they think has some upside, maybe even from challenges. Is that duo going to have a better time than Hook aBeZy? Quite possibly. I mean, at least from Octane's perspective, he's saying like every team but London, he would take their SMG Duo on. And we don't even know what London are going to do yet. And if London actually form a decent SMG Duo, let's say they bring Wardy in +1, and if Wardy plays as he did during the Vanguard challenges year, you know, that could be a challenge as well. So in terms of ranking SMG Duos, I think that Octane can't be far away from the money. I just wonder whether actually putting Illy on the sub is going to be what happens in the medium term, or if this team really lasts that long at all, because historically building teams with loads of ARs doesn't really go too well, but very much interested in your perspective in the comment section below. Just wanted to close out with this, which I saw a while ago now, but I was kind of forgetting to talk about it, from Complexity Fanboy. This is an iceberg. If you guys are unfamiliar with this concept, the idea is that at the top of the iceberg, you have things that are kind of memes in the community that, you know, things that have happened that are known generally by pretty much everybody. And as you go further down, the references become significantly more obscure. I really like what he's done here coming up with this, but I feel like if we put as a community a lot of effort into this, we could maybe do a video on Breaking Point or something, looking at a lot of, you know, even additionally to this. I mean, there's some good ones. I'll just go through them quickly. Splashy, you guys remember Dashy, Vanguard, he falls off the map. We know the lineup one for accuracy. This is Drazah versus Exceed back in the day. Rambol, Ray, everybody knows about. The Full Sail was the original comeback OpTic versus Complexity from 2013. When OpTic were up 5-0, Complexity came back on Express Search and Destroy to win 6-5, and it was held at Full Sail University, which is why it's known like that. The Envoy keyboarding thing, Rocker's SAE with Cammy at the start of the season. Stay tuned, of course. We even mentioned it with Octane earlier in the video. OpTic Slasher, Kyler, like with, you know, when he misspelled disable the COVID testicles. Don't Call Me Damon is a clip between Karma and Sensor back in the Call of Duty Ghost days, which is hilarious. The Ponytail one is Embo's calling Clay Star Ponytail WWE star, basically based on you know, Clay's chosen haircut, shall we say, back in the Black Ops 2 days. Midnight Esports was an organization at the start of the Black Ops 4 season, which was highly controversial for many reasons. Killer and his Ethernet cables, you know, when he thought the yellow cable made you kill quicker than the purple cable, just for example. 4 in 23, of course, is Zuma. Dylan Codd, I mean, wow, I don't know enough of the story about Dylan Codd to really give too much insight into this, but yeah, his career, whatever happened behind the scenes with him, is an entirely different topic of conversation. The skinny bot, right? He was the robot character in Infinite Warfare that was it called Synaptic or Reaper or something like that. Deloshi, I believe, was a South Korean player that qualified for the Black Ops 2 World Championship and was famous for using a riot shield. Man, the haggy endearing the girls. If you guys want to find the video on that, I made a video on it a few years ago. Methods blacklisting OpTic back in the day. Vulcan was some like weird betting site that you could use to bet on games, and there was this drama about like DDoSing other teams so people could win money. You know, classic stuff. There was also 2016 like qualification. Simp and other players that Simp and Cellium maybe that weren't even old enough to compete were like ringing on they were playing on other people's accounts to make them qualify basically, which was a wild story. Scump, I didn't even know about John actually, but Scump was definitely 17 at CoD Champs 2013, but they changed the rules for Scump because he was Scump basically. Supreme Agility was an interesting character. I don't really know too much of the lore on that. I'll have to look it up. Epsilon Nathan, the player in Sanitize that just disappeared off the face of the earth and went to play Fortnite Charles randomly just before the Epsilon guys were going to go to an event, and then obviously the Hukadi stuff. So there's much more we could add to this, but yeah, I don't know. That's pretty fun to go through. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.